there. It's Jonathan Herbst, again, our founder and CEO of ScaleUp GROWTH. Welcome to my business focus series where I chat with owners, managing directors, founders, and business leaders of scaling companies. It centers around their entrepreneurial journey so far and their aspirations for their companies. So today I'm speaking to Trenna Probert, who is founder and CEO of Super Fierce. Welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's wonderful to be here.
And I know it's going to be a fun conversation because we've been talking already for 20 minutes.
And it's Friday. Hey, it's going to be a Friday.
That's right. So Jenna, tell me, what do you do? What's Super Fierce? What it's all about?
Yeah, so Super Fierce is really my answer to the $30 trillion global gender wealth gap. So I'm determined to harness my financial engineering background, but also lived experience of the challenges of having a pretty shaky financial foundation in my life in my early 30s, to bring those together to make it easier for women to get financially fit for life, but to do that in a way which isn't just asking women to take control themselves on becoming educated and learning. So everybody talks about financial literacy. So what Super Fierce is about is making it easier for women to access tools and advice that they can afford and which are appropriate to make good decisions. So we started with superannuation. So here in Australia, there's a 47% gender retirement gap, 42%, depending on how you cut the data, but a big gap. And so what Super Fierce does is it analyzes all of the different super fund options in the country, every investment asset class as well, runs it through our algorithm and calculator, a minimum of 180,000 calculations to generate a digital statement of advice, which shows you how much you've got in super, how much you're on track to retire with, and how you could improve that position by moving into an investment portfolio that we construct, or the algorithm constructs, based on a range of factors, including time to retirement. And yeah, the goal is just to help Australians to retire with more before we move into the next pillar of wealth.
So how long have you been operating?
Yeah, I guess it depends how you answer that question. But so we've been in market, very seriously since we launched on the International Women's Day last year. So that's only a few weeks away now, so nearly a year. But before that, we'd had a year of, in-market testing and adaptation and doing those sorts of things, really building things out, taking a genuine MVP approach to things, making sure we were gathering the learnings before we invested more heavily into the technology to scale.
Great. How would you describe your core customer, your best customer?
Yeah, great question. So we're still learning about that, Jonathan, honestly, but based on what I see today, we do focus on women first, but about 23% of our customers are men, which is why I say we're still learning.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I think for us, we could easily say anybody who's got super, who's under the age of 50 is a great customer for us. But I really think our sweet spot are women between the ages of, say, 32 and 45, who are in that really busy time of their life. They've already worked, they've earned money, they've started to feel the complexity of the juggle of motherhood potentially, or trying to scale their career, or maybe going out and setting up their own business. So they've already got super, they've maybe seen the challenges with financial resilience with other people around them, and so they're conscious of it, but they're also time poor, so they're keen to have somebody to help them.
If I summarize that, this is all about making it easy.
Absolutely. So what we're good at doing is unraveling the complexity of financial products and systems and solutions to make it really easy for people to see what's in their best interest and then to take action.
That is one of the key tenets of my coaching. We can make it easy for our clients, our staff, our suppliers to do business with us. It gives us a significant advantage over the rest.
Yeah, look, something, an idea that, I used to work at Macquarie a million years ago. Don't hold it against me. There are a lot of good people there as well, not just the good ones who left. But, somebody I worked with taught me about this idea of the 3 M's, which was at the time was really about how do you market to financial advisors or product, channels. And it was around make me money, make me look good, make it easy. And I actually just think that plays out across any channel or product, really, is that you really do need to just think about those 3 things.
I agree.
If only it were that simple.
So you've got the perfect background for this next question. So yeah, we've all been through COVID. Of all the actions that you took during COVID, what are some of those actions that have remained in your business and stuck with you?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Jonathan. So for me, the biggest thing was I was very concerned about my members of the team that I could see in different states, different things going on. And a lot of people would say to me that, they stopped reading the news and all of those things. And I was just, I don't feel like I've got the luxury of that because I'm going to get on a Zoom call tomorrow morning, either with a team member or a customer or a partner. And I need to be cognizant of what's actually potentially going on in their world. And so something that I did through that process was do something, and it felt like a luxury at the time in a startup, which is really investing into culture at the foundation of the business. So ensuring that, we would have the Festival of Me, and the Festival of Me was working with our great coach, Julie Alexander, who uses Fingerprint for Success, and really working on helping the team to think about how they were feeling, but understanding themselves and their interactions with other member of the team and really taking that time to think about and create a safe space for those discussions. And then we moved on to the Festival of Us. So that was taking that learning and then how do we all come together with that understanding of ourselves to learn more about each other and then the power of us as a collective. And then the next one was the Festival of the Future. And these continue to roll and become a part of the culture of our organization. But the Festival of the Future is then how do we take that understanding of ourselves, our collective as a team, to then create solutions and products that can take us into the future to help our customers. And so for a startup, that does feel expensive and, potentially a distraction and not the priority. But it was actually crucial for us because it meant that we took the time to breathe and to make sure everybody was okay. And then everybody operates better and feels more valued. And so ultimate plays that benefit. So the short version of that, sorry, Jonathan, is that, it's not a luxury to place culture at the foundation of the way that you build the business. Often, you might do your brand values and it's kind of a light touch and it's something you do when you do your vision and your mission and you think, yeah, when we've got more time, we'll do that. But I definitely learned, particularly in this new age of, remote teams and, a lot of people working from home and sometimes in the office and so on, that having those very strong foundations of understanding and values and connection are even more important than they ever were before.
I totally agree. But you've mentioned you've got team members all over Australia. How do you work that? How often do you get together? How do you build a culture remotely? And this is me saying, because I know you're sitting on the water in Nursery at the moment.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. Look, it's really hard. The honest truth is I find it very challenging. So, particularly when you're in the creation innovation stage in your business, sometimes, that real dynamic collaboration and interaction feels like you want to be face to face and you want to slap each other on the back when you get it right and draw on the whiteboard and so on. And it's hard to replace that. But, there are incredible tools that make it easier now. So, we use a great combination of Figma, Notion, and Asana and Teams that really help us to get that going. But then it's the simple things like, making sure that you've got regular cultural rhythms and celebrations, even if it's just, having a time where you're getting together for virtual drinks and they don't know it, but you've organized to have beer and pizza turn up at everybody's place at the same time. Or if they don't like pizza, they get some salad or whatever it is. It's a lot of work though. So, any business owners out there or teams, leaders of teams, I'm not going to lie to you, it is extra work. It can be very tiring and it takes a lot of time and consideration and thought. And I've had a few mishaps personally in my life recently that mean I feel that I've dropped the ball on that a bit. And so I'm focused on how I get that going again. And, I felt too stretched to be able to do it, but I'm seeing the ripples of that through the team and the business, which reminds me how important that it is. So in terms of getting together, I typically will find myself zooming around a bit when the borders are open to try to be with the team. But one of the benefits of COVID is that we did learn how to, and because we've built those cultural foundations, we learned how to remain connected and communicate through those times of separation. But I'm old fashioned. I really do wish I could be with everybody.
It's a really interesting one, because I mean, it's becoming a more interesting. Well, it's always been an interesting question, but it's becoming more interesting now that borders are open, and I couldn't see them closing again. And
I'm knocking wood quickly there, Jonathan. Let's hope not.
Well, let's hope so. But it's a lot of the work, research, and I'm doing is looking towards this hybrid model, because people want to be together and collaborate. Very hard. But I've got staff in Australia in 3-star, or team members in 3 states. I've got the Philippines, currently India, Pakistan, 2 in Ukraine. In fact, my video editor is in Ukraine. Yeah, so it's not always easy, obviously, to get them all together.
No, it's not. And, it just really reinforces me back to that previous point, though, the importance of taking a deliberate approach to culture with a view on how do you build trust? How do you build a sense of belonging? How do you have shared values around what is and isn't okay? But then the thing that I believe is lost if you don't think about it carefully, that you have happened within a traditional old school business where you were together, and this could be negative and positive, right, is those cultural norms, right? So they're not the things you actually deliberately decide, but from your experience, the things that bubble up, right? The water cooler talk and the things that people kind of do, right? And that can be positive and negative. So I think you've just got to have your eye on that more carefully, because they can bubble up in more invisible ways sometimes as well.
That's true. So, Joy, what's the future look like, and what do you see as your main challenges going forward?
Well, Jonathan, if we had a wider lens on the video, I might lie down on the couch, put my feet up, and tell you all my problems.
I can make a wide lens.
Because I think that there are always so many challenges, obviously. So, for us, we face a number of different challenges, and I'm really toying with a lot of them at the moment. I have had global aspirations from day one. We operate in a highly regulated environment, but particularly in an industry where there is a lot of misunderstanding and complexity between different segments and geographies and those sorts of things. But also as the female founder of a social enterprise that's focused on solving a big problem for women, one of the challenges that I face is that tension between being true to that social mission and being able to deliver scalable returns to shareholders in a time frame that makes them comfortable and happy. And we're at a point at the moment where we're getting some success, and we've got some really interesting opportunities. So we led with B2C, we have some B2B2C opportunities, and we've also got some really significant enterprise opportunities starting to play out. But we're still of a size that we have to go, okay, well, there's only so much you can do. You have to be very focused. You've got to decide, and you need to be able to execute with confidence and clarity. And yet, if we're going to be raising more capital, what's the story that investors are going to want? So for us, it's that tension point between being true to what we stand for and what we believe is important from a mission perspective and what we're great at and how we can deliver value to the end customer, but also doing it in a way that is truly scalable and will enable our business to deliver great shareholder returns. Because if we can do that at scale, then it means we can continue to help more people. So, that sounds pretty broad. There's a lot of detail in that.
Yeah. I get that. I mentioned to you earlier, I'm the director of a super fund. And but it's a bit of a unique one. We are the only, like the Australian Expatriate Superannuation Fund. We're the only fund in Australia authorised by HMRC, His Majesty's Revenue and Customs Service, to provide to look after complying pensions in Australia. And I'm throwing you a challenge now, Trenna.
Yeah, because that's really interesting, because the number of people, Australians who've been working in the UK,
correct.
I speak to, who are just like, oh my God, like I've got this this pot of wealth that's in the UK, and I don't know how to release and activate that opportunity. Maybe there's a collaboration opportunity.
And the interesting part about that also is, no one would know this, but 20% of all international pensions paid out of the UK government come to Australia. And then you've got the under 55, over 55 superannuation side of things. But yeah, like there is one very, very, very narrow niche. And if you think about the thousands of other niches that you would, if you wanted to go broad, you'd have to address. So I really appreciate the point of focus.
Yeah, look, it's critical. And I think probably just an important point about Super Fierce is that, we worked really hard to get our own AFSL, and an AFSL that enables us to move into any of the pillars of wealth other than foreign exchange, because why would you want to do foreign exchange?
Sure.
It's done. No offense to my FX friends. But, the only reason I mention that is that there's additional complexity when you are delivering advice. So our goal is actually to make appropriate, affordable advice accessible to everyone in Australia, but before we step offshore to do that. And that's a pretty big, lofty goal with some place challenges, but very worthwhile. And so trying to get that tension point between that vision and the importance of that, and a genuine belief that that is where the future will be and needs to be, but making sure that you don't have such great first mover advantage that you're the first mover who never succeeds. How many times have we seen that happen?
I definitely get that. I mean, with our AFSL, I purposely put it forward on the basis that we don't give advice. We rely on financial advisors and Super Fierce and others to do the advice. I'm off subject. Let's come back. What's your biggest learning since you become a business owner?
Wow, that's so hard, because, I'm into my 20th year of setting up businesses with far more degrees of failure than success today. And so one of the things I always challenge myself with is to make sure that I take at least one important lesson from everything that I do, with the hope that maybe eventually I'll run out of the lessons to learn. But more importantly, so that I don't make the same mistakes in the same way again. But the biggest lesson I've learned as a business owner or a business leader is that if it's in your blood, if this is what you love to do, stop fighting it, just get better at doing it, because, it's not for everybody. And fighting that desire and that energy to do it, I think is, for somebody like me, it's a waste of energy. I just need to get better at my craft.
But see, I saw some research saying that a huge percentage of entrepreneurs have an element of ADHD about them.
Well, I have ADHD, so I was diagnosed at 40, and definitely. But I think a really important distinction as well, Jonathan, is, are we talking about a business owner? Are we talking about a business builder? Are we talking about an entrepreneur founder? Like, I do think that there are very different versions. And I know for sure, hope none of my investors are listening, but I know for sure that, I'm a genuine founder entrepreneur. So, I've got a really big vision, and I have intense, crazy energy and focus on building something from nothing, building, but it will get to a point. And once it's BAU, I'm not your person.
Right. And that's so easy. I talk to my clients all about unique ability. Your unique ability is something, and we touched on it before we started. Something that you're really good at and you're passionate about. And I mentioned to you, one of the only things I don't delegate in my business now is actually doing these interviews and also coaching my CEO clients. But I surround myself with other people with different unique abilities. That's right. Just look at this podcast. I do one bit, which is what we're doing now. Everything else, the recruitment of people, doing the editing, getting it out there, I don't touch. I built the system. I built the process.
Can I please borrow your system, Jonathan, and your people? Like that.
Very welcome. Very welcome. But Uh, at some stage, with all of our clients, I encourage them to hire a chief of staff, someone who is the BAU, the person who will build those systems, build the processes that allow the visionary you to actually do what you do.
Have you read Gene Wickman's book Traction?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think about this a lot because, that it's always an uncomfortable word to use, I think visionary, but really that founder visionary role.
Absolutely.
And then having that integrator, which in my mind's eye is just, it triggered when you said chief of staff. I've always thought it's kind of like, it's a managing director meets chief of staff meets, founder whisperer, is such a critical person, and definitely the person, one of the key hires I'll be looking at finding in the next months.
And that's right. Yeah. Well,
So to anybody who's listening, if you want to reach out to me about that role, let's start talking now.
and if you want to write a scorecard for it, I've got a scorecard I can help you with.
Okay, perfect.
I mean, so in my practice, I bring the best of the best together, and Jenna and I started out doing the same thing. We were certified scaling up coaches. And what he realized was scaling up, and sorry, Vern Harnish, scaling up is a fabulous framework, but it's limiting. EOS is the same, but it's limiting as well. EOS is like, so I bring the best from all over the place, and lock in. The chief of staff is an interesting one. That's sort of probably my, past life. I was in the Army Reserve for 18 years, and within the Army they talk about the general who's future operations, and the chief of staff is current operations. So the chief of staff is making everything happen. If you think about Ukraine now, how do we actually get the resources, get the people, et cetera, in location ready?
Yeah, I love that. That's really great framing.
Yeah, and when the general is thinking 2 or 3 steps on. And another piece I've brought into my coach is the concept of a leader's intent or commander's intent. Yeah, what is it? And we'll do this with a small project. We'll do it on a 3-year basis. But what is my intent? What is it? Where are we going in 3 years? And this is done in 3 sentences. How are we going to do it? What does it look like? And then the success criteria. All about giving that vision to the team. And
Crazy.
Oh, this is one of my favorite questions. When you think of the word successful, who pops to mind straight away and why?
I'm not sure if this is in the rules actually, Jonathan, but anyway, I'm not good with rules regardless. So is that first people that pop into my mind is actually my parents. And that's, they're not business builders. I am intensely difficult to understand for them and terrifying because I live my life very differently. But, they are my picture of success because they are both from small country towns in South Australia where we grew up. They stepped away from what was expected from them, pursued their own careers and what they wanted to do, traveled the world, and, worked very, very hard to ultimately be able to live a life that they loved, and so that courage for me. And, I grew up traveling around all sort of weird and wonderful places with them. But right now, my dad at 80 and my mum at 78 are having, a wonderful adventure. They're on the Nile in Egypt, and they're going to Petra in Jordan. And so for me, they are the picture of success because they had the courage to say no to what was traditionally expected of them. They forged their own path, but they managed to do that together and overcame so many obstacles individually and collectively. They built a strong foundation of wealth from nothing and evolved that. And now they live a life that they choose for themselves. And I just can't imagine anything better than that. And you can kind of build your own framework there with lots of blank sentences, fill in your own version. But for me, that's success. Being able to choose a life that you will love and work hard and make it happen.
Make sure you get them to listen to this.
I will.
I'm sure they'll be very, very chuffed to hear that. And, it's an interesting question because I get lots of answers. And grandfathers, mothers, Nelson Mandela, Elon Musk. It really varies, and it's fascinating if you have time to go and listen to all 58 or whatever it is now. It's interesting the answers that come from different generations.
Hmm. So I've got a little marketing idea for you, Jonathan. I'm not actually a marketer, but so why don't you get your video guy to grab the answers from everybody to that same question and just filter them through? It'd be really interesting to see what stories evolve from that.
Well, one of the things we're going to do is roll on AI. We're actually going to start repurposing some of these questions, but I like the idea of the video.
Because then you could also do some great carousels for your social media and so on. I think that would work really nicely.
That's good. That's a really good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Do what I say, not what I do. I know that happens when
Are you a reader? Do you listen to blogs? Read blogs? Do you listen to podcasts? Any of you to recommend?
Yes. So I'm a voracious reader. I always have been, from the time I was 3 when I insisted my parents taught me to read. So I love to read. It's my favorite thing literally in the world other than champagne, singing and eating, I think. So, yeah, I love to read. I was a late arriver into listening to podcasts, probably because I enjoy reading so much. But then I discovered the power of blogs. So I hate wasting time. And I love time to work really hard for me. So I love listening to blogs when I'm driving home from taking my kids to school, because I like to talk to them on the way. I like listening to blogs if I'm riding to the store to pick up my groceries or walking on the beach. At the moment, I probably offended him when I told him this morning, but one of my advisors is Chris Sacca. So Chris is this crazy kid from Brisbane, started his own businesses, ended up becoming the head of product and engineering for Uber, very integral to some of their early success in the US. And so he's now got a podcast called the Startup Podcast, which I recommend highly. I recommend signing up for his newsletters and following him. Hopefully this won't go to his head. But, I said to him this morning, look, I actually listen to it when I go to bed at night. And, in the morning I work out. I work out where I fell asleep the night before. I'll pick up on my walk in the morning. But so blogs have become, really, really useful for me. And another one, so I really do recommend that, Chris Sacca, the Startup Podcast.
Yep.
And then I also really am enjoying the Diary of a CEO, which is a podcast by a young bloke. I'm not sure how young he is now. It's been out for a long time, but this guy, Steven, in the UK. And what I love about this podcast is that listening to his male and definitely much sexier voice than mine, sounding a lot like the voice in my own head about, the experiences I'm having or the things that I'm considering, wondering about, and hearing his journey through a lot of those same things, but then the things that he learned, or I listen and I'm like, dude, like seriously, you missed the point on that. But, instead of feeling crazy and having that conversation on my own, it feels like I'm having a conversation with somebody else. And, as a founder, it's a very lonely place. And it's very difficult to find people who can truly understand what you're going through or what that experience is like. And so, so Steven is kind of, the answer to the voice in my head, the crazy voice in my head, having those conversations all the time. So, so I love Chris's podcast because, it's practical, sometimes slightly obnoxious / controversial, not obnoxious, controversial is a better word, but it's very practical and informative, and I learn and I can apply the things that I hear. Whereas Steven's, it feels more like a conversation with yourself or with a friend and, really learning. And now he goes and talks to some of the most successful thought leaders and entrepreneurs around the world. So you can see as he's gained his success, he's now getting the entrance to have conversations with all these people. And so, I like that balance, right, of those sorts of things. In terms of books, I'm a voracious reader, so we'd be here all day if I mentioned particular books, but I really like just taking tiny bite-sized pieces of ideas from different books, and it can be great inspiration, it can be great tips, frameworks, ideas. And also, I like reading things where I go, I would never do that. And it's great because it gives you a moment to go, consider, no, I've actually got an opinion and that doesn't work for me. And hey, a couple of years time, I might come back and go, yeah, that dude was actually right. But I think giving yourself permission to read with a view, not just to learn from others, but also to help to acquire and test your own perspective, whether it's the same as theirs or not, is very important. One of my favorites is the Culture Code. Not sure if you've read the Culture Code. Loves that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I got a very long list of them, but yeah, I love to read.
Yeah, it's and I'm the same. If I turned my background off, you'd see my very, very, very large, very, very messy bookcase. Because of course,
Maybe that should be your it should be your background in future, and then we'll kind of have matching ones.
I can do it.
Messy too.
Oh, sorry, I did the wrong one. Sorry, excuse me.
It's okay.
I've lost myself, didn't it?
That's not that bad.
Well, it's kind of, you can see everything on the floors. You'll understand it. But it's really interesting. It's people ask me, how do you get time to read? And one of my things, because I don't think there's very, very little that's new out there. So a lot of the stuff I do, I talk jokingly with my clients about R&D, rip off and duplicate, but always give accreditation where it comes from, which is one of the things I do. And or I take a concept and add to it. But in fact, I should write a blog on this. One of the things I do is read a book in 2 hours. And the way I do it is front cover, back cover, inside front cover, inside back cover, introduction, conclusion. Go to each chapter, introduction, conclusion, what tools are in the chapter, what can I get out of it? And that's when I decide if I'm going to read the whole thing.
Yeah, and it also depends what the type of book is and why you're doing it. So I give myself permission to do whatever I want, right? So, maybe I'm going to read the last page first. I try not to do that in crime fiction books, just to be clear, because it kind of spoils the whole experience. But also, going in and grazing and find, is there a subject here that's of interest to me? And it may not be the whole book right now. It might be a particular thing, and that's okay.
Correct.
As well. So giving yourself permission to do that, I think, is really important, and understanding that you don't always have to read with a specific intent. Yes. Because, there may be something there that suddenly arises. You go, might think about it now. Or maybe in 6 months' time, you'll suddenly remember something that you read. And that's what I love about that as well. So I just want to challenge you on one thing about, is there anything new out there? So I think that where you can get real richness in reading different people, listening to different people, is everybody's journey and experience that they come through around a concept and an idea. And so why I think that's important is not necessarily just learning for you, but also learning about other people and the way that they may feel or the experiences. They might be your team, it might be your wife, it might be your future chief of staff, or it could be your customers. And so they're the delicious delights that I think you find in reading that are very unexpected.
Yeah. Look, I put that the wrong way, but when I'm talking about, I'll give you the example, that example of the general and chief of staff. A lot of that, there is a lot there that you can learn from others and learn from, and which can be adapted.
You've coined a phrase and a way of explaining it and created a metaphor, and you've referenced your personal experience in the army and so on, and all of a sudden it takes on a light of its own, which is special.
But of course, technology is like, and we were talking about ChatGPT earlier, and just what it's the opportunities of ChatGPT if you have the right people who know how to use it. And so technology and what your business is all about as a chief accelerator. Of course, that's me.
Yeah, and also I think being very clear about what your intention is. What do you want to get from it? Yeah. It's it's very easy to skip past that. My first little experiment with ChatGPT was a resounding failure. And that's because I was a bit flippant about what I put in, because I just kind of wanted to see, right? And so, yeah, I think it's just being really intentional and also being willing to learn through those mistakes as well.
Absolutely. And I have a client call after us, and I'm trying a new piece of technology with him. It's a AI that loads onto Zoom that takes notes of, takes written notes based on the conversation and actually comes up with a to-do list from it.
Yeah, that's
So I'm really interested to give that a go. And Alan, I apologize, you're going to be a pinch test, Alec, but it'll be really interesting to see, like some of those things, which going back to making it easy.
totally. Look, and as someone with ADHD who has kind of struggled through life with lots of different things, I've been good at creating tools to survive and so on, but I'm always looking for better ones, right? That can enable me to focus on what I'm really great at and try to diminish the impact, at least, of the things that I'm not as good at. And I mean, that's absolutely crucial. So where we can use technology, and so Otter AI is another great one.
Otter's great, but it doesn't come up with a to-do list.
It does now. It does if you use the app. Like, check out the app. It's epic.
Oh, okay.
I've only just discovered it recently. I'm quite excited about it.
Because my thought process with this is, take the transcription down, use the AI to consolidate it. It comes up with the to-do list. I can share it back with my client. It automatically updates into my CRM. It adds the to-do list in the CRM. Like if I get that working, it'd be phenomenal. But you then need, I'm off subject again.
No, and then you can build out the processes and systems, and then you can sell it to all your clients. It's going to be brilliant. Can't wait.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Any last piece of advice for entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs out there?
Yes, I've actually got lots, but if I had to settle on one, it would be, so everybody talks about entrepreneurs that you have to be crazy to do it. And so when you're on the entrepreneurial journey, there will be so many moments that are terrifying or seem impossible, or you're facing into a chasm of, you just don't know what to do next. You don't feel like you've got those answers. And so I think in those moments, it's really easy just to go, oh my God, they were right. I am insane. Why on earth did I do that? Why did I choose to do this? And, you need to allow yourself some moments to do that, and maybe pour yourself a nice glass of red, or go for a run and have a cold pressed juice, or whatever's your jam, right? But what I would really encourage entrepreneurs and founders and business owners to remember is this: in equal parts to the crazy is courage. So you didn't just start a business because you're crazy. You're not an idiot. You're crazy enough to think something different and new can be done. But it takes courage to tread where nobody else has been before, right? So I'd like people to remember that, yes, you have that special dose of crazy, but you also have the courage, because it takes courage to feel the fear. It takes courage to look the fear in the face, try and work out what the F you're going to do, and keep going, right? So that's my reminder. Yes, you are a little bit crazy. Welcome to the crew. But you also are brave, and you have what it takes to get it done. So in the moments of fear, lean in. Remember, you've got the courage to get through it.
Great advice.
And you can call me and remind me of that sometimes.
It's I mean, you're absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. Or you can hire a coach like me.
That's right. That's right. But I mean, that is my other piece of advice, honestly, is you really do need to, I touched on the fact that it's a lonely journey, that you're crazy, you're different. People won't understand you. You will lose relationships. You will completely transform your life. And a lot of the time it will feel at great personal cost.
Yeah.
Right. This is not for everybody. And if you start this journey and discover it's not you, there's no shame in that, because it does take a good dose of crazy. We all have different realities. But in order to do this, it's a lonely journey. You do need to surround yourself with good people. So investing the time into finding people who understand, who've either been on the journey before or they're going through it today, where it's safe not to know, where it's safe to just fall apart and just go, I just can't do this today. There's that group. There's the founders who truly understand. But then surround yourself with great advisors. Right. But make sure that you surround yourself with advisors who have the humility to understand that they can advise, they can provide insights and inputs, But ultimately, the buck stops with you and you're crazy. So they may not truly understand. So be open and listen, but you've got to filter as well. And also to surround yourself with different types of people and understand that there'll be different people for different times, different advisors, different coaches. I one of the biggest gifts I gave myself was the gift of believing I was worth having a coach. This is something I think people struggle with a lot. And eventually what happened was I decided my mission and my business was so important to me that I had to invest in believing that I was worthwhile so that they could help me to believe that I was worthwhile so that I could do what I need to do. And I have different coaches for different things. So don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah. And, I have two coaches of my own, as in not in my business. I have a guy called Dan Sullivan, who runs strategic coach out of the US. And I've got another group called Dent Global at the moment. And I always am rotating coaches myself to focus on areas where I've worked out I need that assistance. And the importance of coaches. A great example of that was Steve Jobs and Eric Schultz. So Steve Jobs, the boss of Apple, Eric Schultz, the boss of Google, both had a coach. They had the same coach at the same time.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's a phenomenal story. There's a great book about it. I'll send you the details.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you'll just prove why this is one thing in my bill. One of the two things in my business that I don't delegate. I've had a fabulous conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. Likewise, I actually can't think of anything I would have enjoyed doing more on a Friday. And that's a very big call because I'm looking out at a sunshiny Sunshine Coast. So thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
I've enjoyed it enormously. And so just to encapsulate the intro and outro slides for this interview will have Trenna's contact details and the company's contact details. If you're unsure about your finances, go and have a look.
Thank you so much. And we actually have a new release of the product coming out at the end of March, which we're really excited about. So stay tuned for that as well. We're really excited to show you what's coming.
Fabulous weekend.
Thanks, Jonathan. You too.
Thank you.